Have you ever had the unhappy experience of your car running out of petrol? I remember vividly one time I was taking my wife and 3 boys away for a church camp weekend. It was Friday night and I knew the petrol was running low, but I thought I had enough to make it to the end of the journey. And we'd passed through the last town, and then just a few miles short of our holiday destination on a lonely country road, I ran out of petrol. I had to leave an unhappy family in the car to walk to the nearest farmhouse to get some petrol. And half an hour later returned with a can, got the car started, and finally we're on our way again and made it to our destination. You see, as the driver of the car, it was my responsibility to keep the petrol level full. But I'd developed perhaps the bad habit of always running my car on the empty half of full because we were living on a fairly tight financial budget and every dollar mattered. So I would only stop for petrol when I was nearly empty and just get enough to keep us going for the next day or two. But this way of living was rather risky, and this time I miscalculated and got caught out badly. You know, sometimes we run our marriages like that. We can start our marriage with a full love tank, but gradually we begin to draw on that love and keep driving on in our marriage without taking time to refuel. But if we don't stop from time to time to replenish the love and increase the level in our marriage of love, it will run down and eventually could run out. Or perhaps you are like me and my car, running your marriage on the empty side of half with just minimal inputs to keep the relationship going. But unlike a car which can run just as well on a quarter tank as on a full tank, in marriage it doesn't work that way. Running your marriage on a quarter tank or close to empty will become a rough ride and will cost you even more than trying to drive your car without petrol or oil. But whose responsibility is it to keep the love tank of your marriage full? Oh yes, I know it takes 2 to tango, and love in marriage is definitely a two-way thing. But this may come as a surprise to you. The one who is meant to keep the love tank full is not you and your wife, it is you. In describing God's intention for marriage in Ephesians chapter 5, Paul tells husbands 3 times, love your wives, love your wives, love your wives. But not once does he tell wives to love their husbands. Why is that? Because I believe the level of love in your marriage depends on you, the husband. You are primarily responsible to keep the love tank full. A woman, you see, is by nature a responder. If you love her and keep her love tank full, she will almost always respond with love in return. This means you as the husband hold the key to the level of love in your marriage. And we know as men we can be so easily focused on work and distracted with other interests, and we can neglect love or take it for granted. We can be looking at other things and not careful to check the fuel gauge of our marriage. And we can be caught by surprise when the love tank runs empty. That's why Paul reminds us to keep intentionally putting love into our marriage. Otherwise, the quality of your marriage will deteriorate and your love tank may run dry. Perhaps some of you have even experienced the painful results of that happening already. How then do we keep love alive? How do we keep the love tank of our marriage full? In this week's study, we looked at 5 basic ways to keep love alive through what Gary Chapman calls the 5 love languages. You replenish the love tank of your marriage by words of affirmation, quality time, giving gifts, acts of service, physical touch. Happy marriages don't just happen. Strong and fulfilled marriages come as a result of couples learning how to communicate love in ways that keep each other's love tank full. Love can be quickly drained away through criticism, arguments, and neglect. But kind words, giving time and attention, showing kindness, expressing affection and communicating love in many little ways helps to replenish love and make your marriage a happy one. Gary Chapman in this book also points out that these 5 love languages communicate love to people in different ways. And each person has one primary love language that communicates love more powerfully than the other ways. So it's important not only to exercise the 5 love languages, but to know what your wife's primary love language is. For that is how she receives and feels love most strongly. And the same is true for you. You both need to know each other's primary love language, because the way you feel most loved may be different to the way she feels most loved. When you show love to your wife using her primary love language, it is like putting high-octane fuel into her love tank. It will not only improve your relationship, but it will increase the mileage in your marriage.
So I'm Dave. This is my wife Belinda, and we've been married for 16 years, nearly 17 years.
We have 3 girls, Emily, who's 14, Isabel, who is 11, and Adelaide, who is 8.
So I was introduced to the 5 love languages by Belinda. She had read the book, or started to read the book, and like most blokes, I'm not a big reader, and especially not on self-help stuff. Would that be right? Oh. So Belinda was reading this, and she was just kept saying to me, "Oh, you got to read this or listen to this bit," and so she was feeding me bits and pieces of this book. So the idea of it was foreign to me. I didn't understand about a love tank. I didn't understand about how I needed to. I thought if I just treated Belinda well and looked after her, then that would be okay. But I didn't realise that the way that I was pouring into Belinda was actually not what she needed at all. So I was trying my hardest, and it really wasn't working, and Belinda didn't feel loved.
I guess when we first got married, it was all just trying to get what you think you need from this person who is also trying to get what they think they need, and it's you don't get anywhere. And we really struggled in the first little while. Just going, why isn't this working? Like, what, and we sought God a lot on how can we make our marriage work. I mean, my parents fought from as long as I can remember and got divorced when I was a little bit older, but there was always that disharmony, and I was adamant that it was not going to happen to me. And so when we got married and this whole dissatisfaction was there, it was like, well, this can't be what God wants for us. And so we just really sought Him, and then He led us to this book, or led me to the book first. But the whole concept of giving before you get, really, was a big thing I got from it. And that we kind of just think other people want what we want, well, I like presents, so don't you like presents, kind of thing. And so learning that Dave actually needed something else to say that I loved him was a big, it was insight that was invaluable.
Looking at the 5 love languages, I really identify with all of them to a certain degree. I really thought that all of them were important to me, and so I really had to probably dig a bit deeper just to see which one was maybe more important or more significant for me. And I guess the one thing that was quite important to me or helpful for me was I looked at what I did for Belinda. If I was going to show her, if I wanted to show her love, I actually looked at what I would do for her. And then that gave me an idea as to say what was really important to me, because you naturally do what you want for yourself, for the other person. So words of affirmation were a big thing for me. I find that very important. And physical touch. And I absolutely love it when she comes up and gives me a hug, or even just if we're sitting, she'll put a hand on my leg or something like that. And that just makes me feel very connected and very loved, and that means more to me than most things.
Which is really hard when those things aren't what I do naturally. Like, I'm not a touchy-feely person, and I'm not a big words, so that was really hard to kind of do that when it wasn't what I do. So I think words of affirmation as well, and quality time was my main standout ones. I remember Dave bought me a birthday present our first year together, I think, and he bought me, it was great, it was a stethoscope, which is what I wanted and needed, but he didn't give me a card, and I was really hurt that he didn't give me a card, and I was trying to think, well, why, what was the issue there? And it was because he didn't have the words. Like, the gift it didn't mean as much because it didn't have the words.
What it does is it takes the emphasis off what you want and need yourself, and turns it around to being selfless rather than selfish. So I'm now looking to Belinda's needs. I'm searching. I'm looking to see what will fill her up, what will make her feel special. But our marriage is so much better. When you feel full, when you feel loved, and when we feel connected, we're much better together. We're better for our kids. We are a great partnership, and we often say to each other, we're a great team, hey?
Well, let me summarise the 5 love languages that we have put together in this chapter, and in effect we've summarised the whole of Gary Chapman's book in this chapter 2. But let's go through them briefly. The first one is words of affirmation. This means deliberately expressing words of appreciation to your wife for what she does and complimenting her, rather than just taking her for granted. Give her words of praise and words of encouragement rather than criticising and complaining or just remaining silent. Words of affirmation are powerful communicators of love. The second love language is quality time. The busyness of life can quickly drain away the quality time we need to keep in touch and stay emotionally connected. We need to have those special times together when we can share our hearts and keep connected. This is more than just sitting watching television together. It is taking time to focus on each other, enjoy each other's company, and communicate at a deeper level. Perhaps sharing what's really going on inside, and staying connected at that deeper emotional level of your relationship, something that we as men often find difficult to do, but it's absolutely essential. So quality time. And then the third love language is giving and receiving gifts. If receiving gifts is your wife's primary love language, then buying her such things as flowers or something she really appreciates would be a valuable investment that you could make into your marriage. A big gift doesn't necessarily show more love than a small gift. It's really the little tokens of love that add up. So if gift giving is helping to fill your wife's emotional love tank and resulting in a happier wife and a better marriage, then this investment will be worth more than putting money in the bank. The fourth love language is acts of service. Now, acts of service as a love language is willingly doing things that you know your spouse would appreciate you doing, and doing them without complaining because you love her. Are there things your wife keeps reminding you about? If she keeps nagging, perhaps that is a clue. Are you willing to put her interests before your own and make it a priority to do those little things that she appreciates? It may be putting out the rubbish, helping with the kids, being more tidy, or fixing that leaking tap. Are you willing to put her first in these practical ways and show her that you really care? And then the fifth one is physical touch. As a love language, this is referring to the many non-sexual physical expressions of affection and love that you show your wife. It may be a pat, a touch on the arm, an arm around her, or a hug or a kiss, or holding hands as you walk. Why do these physical signs of affection have to stop after you get married? For some people, physical touch is the most important way they feel loved. Without it, they feel unloved. So, how do we keep love alive? Well, we do it by continuing to replenish love in our marriage through the 5 ways that Gary Chapman outlines: words of affirmation, quality time, giving gifts, acts of service, and physical touch. Have you checked the fuel gauge of your marriage lately? Are you running on full, or are you running on the lower side of half? Perhaps it's time to stop for a check and a time to refuel. It could be the best thing you could ever do. And that's what we're going to do when we come to the workshop questions.
So I'm Dale, and this is my wife Fiona, and we've been married 25 years now. I got that right, didn't I?
Yeah, and we have 3 children. Jesse's 21, Nick's 19, and Rachel's just about to turn 13. Yeah.
And I think, marriage has been a very important journey for us, and not one we started off well. We probably had a lot going against us to begin with, and we've invested a lot, which has really brought a lot of blessings. So our marriage is something that it really is the foundation of our family now. It wasn't that many years into our marriage where I came to a point of understanding that what I bring to the marriage is what will determine the nature of it and the fruit of it. And I was really looking for what fruit did I want, and therefore what did I need to bring. And that's been a challenge, because it's meant I've needed to change a lot. And yet some of the fruit, which is around affection and security and joyfulness, meant I needed to bring some certain things into the marriage to create that. And that's been a real mission for me. And the principle there about understanding each other's primary love languages allows you to express love in a way that works for each other.
Yeah.
And that's been very, very useful for us, hasn't it?
Very. And what's been interesting is how we identified that we were doing, when we worked out which our primary love languages were, we worked out that we were actually doing that a lot for them. So I was expressing, or I was doing acts of service, which is my love language, to Dale all the time. And so when we learned about the love languages, that was really interesting. But then we saw that actually, no, we were giving a lot of what we really wanted. So understanding that was really very valuable.
So I went on a whole journey there, because my primary is giving gifts. And for every man, buying flowers, I think for most of us, seems unproductive, because they're going to die, and so. But I got over that, and I really realised that it's the giving of the gift that's important, what the gift is. And so I used to buy Fiona flowers very regularly, and it had very little impact. It wasn't what she was looking for. And so it's so easy to be off the mark. Even though I was trying to express love, it wasn't. And what I've discovered for Fiona, whose love primary language is acts of service, it's putting on a load of washing or sweeping the floor that actually means so much more. And that's been very useful. And I don't spend so much on flowers anymore, but because I'm hitting the mark elsewhere when I get that right.
Yeah. And what we learnt from him buying the flowers and buying gifts and things was that was his primary love language. He loves receiving gifts. And not being a person who spends a lot of time in shops, or that was not even in my nature or radar, but it's been something I've learned how to do, and being aware of that now, and picking up on, he was thinking about he needs some new singlets, even simple things like that. For him, it's meant, she thought about me when I wasn't there. So, and that's been a journey to understand that, but it's contributed a huge way, hasn't it? Yeah.
And Fiona's just more recently been listening to what I'm interested in and acting on that, and getting me little gifts, which pretty cheap little things, but they mean a lot because it's contributing to some of the things I love to do.
So it's taken work, you know what I mean? Like, it's not understanding it's been great, but it's still a journey of actually learning how to use that, and the same for Dale. Like, he knows with us, you know, a busy life and everything, it is that simple thing of hanging out a load of washing or doing things, which means a huge amount to me because it's contributing to how we work as a couple and as a family.
One of the things along the journey that was probably central to us was learning how to get in each other's corner. And so the concept that we have discovered, I guess, is that if you're for each other, if you're for the best of each other, we haven't been always. We could have been quite critical or judgmental of each other, or really tripping over the differences in each other, rather than wanting to bring out the best in each other. And that's certainly been the latter part of our marriage to date. Has been a much different journey where we're working pretty hard to help each other become who God meant each other to be. And someone said to us recently, which I thought was a good comment, that it might take you many years to actually get to that point, and the risk is of giving up before you learn how to be in each other's corners, learn how to be there for each other. You know, this, because we're talking about marriage, but the love languages have helped us enormously in our parenting as well. And when you can tap the key language of your children, it makes the world a difference. You could be actually, so our son's love language is words of affirmation. It's also the area you can do the most damage. So if you're using harsh words or judgment, it hurts twice as much. And so being conscious of that with your children has been a huge help to us. Nick's also quality time, and if you don't find time to be with Nick, you can disconnect significantly, and so it's been a blessing in that arena as well.
Absolutely.
Well, that was interesting hearing those comments, wasn't it? Now it's your turn to work through the workshop questions together. And if you are married, I encourage you to later, if you haven't already done so, to invite your wife to read the chapter as well and discuss the workshop questions with her. It could bring a whole new level of understanding and enrichment into your marriage, and for some it could even save it. And don't forget to do the questionnaire, Ways to Score Points with Your Wife, on page 29 of this book as well. Have a good week. Prepare for the third chapter through the week, and I look forward to seeing you then. God bless you.